Jalen Travis, what is his, steadfast ability to be an impact tackle meant for that offense, particularly when it comes to Coach Clanton's versatility along with violence thing? You can move guys like James Neal around and do a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think what he's given us is certainly great flexibility. And, with some injuries, especially to him early in the season and, a lot of that group early on in the season, I think as Jalen got healthy, he steadied the ship of that offensive line for sure. And, I think the biggest thing that he has brought to the table, obviously 4 years of college football playing experience, one. And then number two, I just think, his poise and certainly what he stands for, even off the field. I just think he brings such a maturity to that group. And you pair him with Jared Hufford, man, I just feel like those two guys have just laid such a great foundation of steadiness, confidence, and, really a pillar to build on. And we really, maybe at times you've had one of those pieces, but to have two pieces like that. And then, I think the emergence of Tyler Miller as a guy that's played a lot of football, but just the consistency he's played with. We're really fortunate to have those three pillars on this offensive line right now. And we've needed it because you've had some rotation on the interior piece of that. And, I think their confidence, their consistencies allowed those young guys to settle in and really play good football.
In Arizona State's offense, obviously they lost their 1,000-yard receiver, but a quarterback like Levitt, a tailback like Scadaboo, you got the tight end with 5 touchdowns, guy averaging 17 yards a catch. I'd imagine they're still looking pretty impressive to you.
They're dynamic. I think they have such a unique ability to put the pressure on the defense in every way, shape, and form. And obviously, you never want to lose a good football player this time of year, but I think good football teams have great players, and they certainly got a collection of those guys. And you're right, you got great pass catchers at tight end. Obviously, you got an elite playmaker and some really talented guys on the outside. And then obviously, I think just with the tailback's ability, not only as a runner, but as a ball catcher in space, just so impressive. So, and then you got championship level quarterback play, and I think they've gotten that. I've just been so impressed with his ability to control the offense, to really put the offense in really advantageous situations to be successful. So, it'll be a great challenge for us defensively for sure.
Coach, Kenny Dillingham said yesterday that he came up here when he was the Auburn OC. What do you remember about his visit, and would you be surprised to hear that he dropped he said they want to be the best versions of themselves yesterday at his press conference too?
Awesome. No, Kenny's a really, obviously a dynamic young football coach, and there was relationships with him, through his coaching career as he's continued to ascend. Really happy for him. They've done a tremendous job, to be quite honest with you, and him and his staff got a lot to be proud of. He's got some, great football coaches on his staff, as well, that we've got really good relationships with. But just a lot of respect from my standpoint for him, what he's been able to accomplish as a young head football coach, and being in those same shoes not long ago. You have appreciation for somebody that the spirit his football team plays with. You can tell they believe in their head football coach and their coaching staff.
Matt, you've talked earlier this month about how the young guys on the defense are striving to grow as fast as they can. What have you seen from that growth over these past couple of weeks to put together a performance like against Kansas State?
Yeah, I just think, again, repetition is, as Coach Haycock would say, repetition is the mother of all learning, and that's why veteran football teams really grow and have success. And, unfortunately, we haven't had maybe as much growth or as much, of that repetition as we would have liked to have. We thought we were going to have early in the season, but I think just the impact that these young guys have had, the courage to not waver, even when they've struggled at times, and just grow at the rate that they're growing. It's been so rewarding to watch. And again, I know I've given a lot of credit to our seniors and some of our veterans that have been able to stay healthy and have been pillars for those guys as they've grown. And Bo's ability to stay on the football field and be an impact, Jeremiah Cooper, Darian Porter, they've been key voices. Getting Will McLaughlin back was really huge for Iowa State football. And and then obviously J.R. Singleton, and Joey Peterson. Some of those guys have been able to stay the course, and it's helped those guys. But I just think there's been a relentless will to want to, do everything in their power for the betterment of the team. And that's the one thing that I've really loved about this team and this group is, everybody wants to succeed, not for themselves, but for the betterment of the whole. I think it's really hard to find that in college football today, and certainly to be able to watch that happen, especially with young guys demanding to do it every single day, it's been really fun. And yeah, I think they've improved greatly, and you saw it a little bit on Saturday, and I think you'll still continue to see that as we continue on through the football season. I think this group's, there are another levels of excellence that I think we can get to, and I think everybody feels that and knows that, and we're excited about that challenge and opportunity.
You talked on Saturday night about the 2020 game in a way that it's made it seem like it's never far from your mind. Even winning the Fiesta Bowl, when you think about not winning that title game, how much does that linger for you and I guess for the program to have not gotten over that hump?
Yeah, I just think for me, I think any coach that, you always reflect back on never the wins, but you reflect on the losses, and obviously that game, that moment was a great learning opportunity for all of us. I think there's a lot of those. I probably can reflect on those way more than any of our wins during our time. And, that one, obviously you sting just because, you felt like, you played pretty good football that day, but not good enough. And, I think it was another great lesson of, what'd you learn? How do you grow? And, if you ever get an opportunity to be back in that moment, what can you do best to continue to grow forward? And every team's different. So, I think some of that is what it is as well. But, you felt for that senior class and those kids who, that was a really special group, another group very much like this one that, were able to do things that have never been done in the history of this school and, had great leadership. And so I think anytime you have those type of players and you have that kind of group, you really want to do everything in its power for them to reach every opportunity of success that they can have.
Injury-wise, Malik, Brazina, Bramer, and I think back in September you said Bacon could come back in December.
Yeah.
Is that still on the table? Or no?
Yeah, I don't think Caleb will be ready. Now, I think the great thing for Caleb is he's back doing football activity, and so I think he's a lot closer than he is farther away. He's still not ruled out for a season, so I think that's a huge positive for Iowa State football and obviously for Caleb. I think Ben, a lot closer, was out on the practice field today. Where is he? Can he really go in and play? I think we'll see as this week continues on. But I think he's certainly trending in a positive direction to have the potential to be available. I think Kale's probably more still of a question mark right now. And then Malik, I think, again, was out of practice today. So I think there's a real possibility that he would be able to be available for us. But, I think all those situations are still, none of them are defined. And, I think there's still probably question marks. But, obviously all four guys that if we can get them on the field, they'd be a huge asset for us.
How have you seen Jaden and Jalen's friendship / working relationship kind of grow on and off the field?
Yeah, I think honestly, Tommy, those guys, from day one have hit it off here, and I think their elite traits are very similar. Their work ethic. They both love football, and they both love to do everything in their power for the betterment of the team to be their best. And I'd still say this, and I've said this a lot about a lot of our great players that have come through here. They love to practice. They love the craft of getting out there every day. And what you see on Saturday, it's the same thing if you come to practice on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday. These guys are the same every day, and that's a hard trait to have, especially at this age. So I think those two have clicked under, number one, that understanding of what it takes to be great, and then I think number two, just the selflessness that they have for each other. I think those two really care about each other. There's a great friendship there, and there's a great inspiration for each one that, they've got authentic joy for each other's success, and you really appreciate that because I think it's hard to find, especially at that position. Everybody wants the ball, and those two guys have great appreciation for each other, and I really appreciate that.
Matt, Arizona State's plus 11 in turnover margin. How big of a factor has that been in their turnaround?
Boy, I think it's been, you just look at the last 4 games, their last 4 games, they've been able to create turnovers early and often, and created just, this incredible momentum for themselves in these football games. And whether it's been on defense or whether it's been on special teams, they've had the ability to attack and, certainly be the aggressor. And, a lot of that has been at the ball. And, it's really helped them, really and really sustain the momentum for 60 minutes in a football game. So, we know, how critical that statistic is for Iowa State's success. I'm sure, Coach Dillingham saying the same thing about Arizona State's success, and I think it's spearheaded certainly the month of November for them to be as successful as they've been, is that ball security from their end of it and their ability to take the ball away in special teams and defense.
Coach, with the transfer portal being so readily available, how important has it been for a guy like Darian Porter to stick it out and carve a role on this team?
Yeah, I would say Darian Porter, and you probably can go down our entire roster of guys that, have been homegrown and stayed the course here. I think it's probably what makes this team really special is, we've gone through all these journeys for the most part together. And obviously Darian's situation is, man, you go back in our time, you go to Jake Hummel and some of these guys that waited their Gary Vaughn, they just waited their turn and they kept growing and developing, and wherever they could help the team during their growth process, they maximized their role and perfected their role. And, we know what Darian's meant on special teams over the course of the last 6 years. But man, just his ability to hone in on his craft, and then the reward comes at the end. And it's certainly come to him, in a powerful way, honestly, this year. I mean, not only is he playing great on special teams, obviously what he's done at corner, but not only is he playing good at corner, you could say he's one of the best corners in college football, and what he's been able to do has been really awesome to watch. So I think those are stories that are powerful. I think that's really what our sport's been about, and certainly what our program's been about when we've been at our best. So we're really grateful for Darian, and obviously a lot of our guys that have stayed the course here and continue to work to get what they want.
Hi, Matt. In talking to the players earlier, we asked, is there any extra juice for the Big 12 championship game in practice? And most of them, the general vibe was, no, every practice is hard. Practice kind of looks similar. Why is that so often in your program and just football across America? I'm not trying to goad you into saying anything, but there's no extra juice, there's no extra shot of espresso in your coffee in the morning because it's Big 12 championship week? Why is it so steady?
Yeah, I think our sport is so unique. College football is just a different animal, in my opinion. We don't get to play Tuesday and play good or bad and then get to play again on Saturday, and we don't get to play a doubleheader on Friday and then get to come back and play, another nightcap on Saturday. That's just not our sport. And so our sport is a journey through, 12 guaranteed weeks of a football season and finding consistency, which is why college football is so entertaining, because it's so inconsistent to watch and you just don't know what you're going to get every week. And I think one thing I would hope when you turn our football team on, boy, every time they touch the field, it may not always be perfect, but the consistency of attitude, effort, and strain to go win the football game as a team, that's been what we've kind of built our foundation on and tried not to waver from that. So I really don't feel like it's any different. Man, I feel like we've been playing a one-game season, to be quite honest with you, pretty much all year. And we played big games all year, and it's great that we're at this point of the season and we've earned the right to be in this moment. But I think we've earned the right to be in this moment because our conviction to our standards, how we practice every day, how we come to prepare. Man, should it be any different this week? Boy, if it's different this week, then I think you're foolish. I think you're somebody that maybe can't be the same person every day. And I think those teams really struggle. So I appreciate our kids saying that, and that's really what we've tried to do here.
Matt, you've got a handful of guys who were very young but here the last time you did this. You've got a couple of guys on the team that just missed that opportunity. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed any chatter amongst maybe some of the older guys as this has become maybe more of a realistic opportunity that this is something that, they had that crack at it and they wanted to get it again?
Yeah, I just remember 2020 was so different, right? I mean, it was a different time and a different animal, and yet, it's great to have guys like JR and Darian and Huff that were, they were a part of that journey and saw, obviously, being in that stadium and what does it feel like and look like. So I think, we always try to use history as a great guidepost to how do we grow forward, and to have some of the guys that were here to be a part of that history, to kind of navigate the messaging of, hey, here's at least what we felt, and this is what the locker room looks like, and man, this is kind of what running out looks like, and all those kind of things. I think those are huge positives. But at the end of the day, I think the reality of what this group has stood for is, since January, we've been working to believe that we could be a team that could be here in this moment. And so, I think it's great to have some of those experiences, because I think sometimes with a game like this, it's all the other stuff that can suffocate you. But the reality of it is poise in the moment, and the ability to play really good football, and the ability to take care of the ball, and the ability to do your job in the moment. And so I think that's been one of the great messages I've heard some of those veterans be able to talk about, and just appreciate that for sure. And we're lucky some of those seniors, man, they played in championship games in high school, and have been a part of some of these moments as well. And I think we've been fortunate to have good wisdom and have good historians here along the way to help guide us.
I think you said earlier that Scadaboo's a different kind of human being. Is it really that simple with him sometimes, where the biggest, most physical guy is a pretty good running back?
Boy, I just, the respect that I would have, the last guy I feel like I watched run the ball like this was David Montgomery, and I just think the passion that he has the ability to run the football with. He's dynamic in terms of, his skill to run away from you, but also, this unbelievable electric power to run through you. And, anytime you see a guy play the game of football the way it should be played, man, you have just an utmost respect for him. And he's just a really impressive football player. I think everybody in our program has the utmost respect for his ability, not only, like I said, not only as a runner, but he also as a pass catcher, and what he can do in space. It's really awesome to watch, and it'll be a great challenge for us.
Coach, I was curious to know what it's been like with all the fan support and love that you guys have gotten from rushing the field to people getting ready to go to Dallas themselves. What are some things that you've experienced, and also how much does that do for you guys as you get ready for this game?
Yeah, I would just say it's always what's been great about this journey here over 9 years. It's like, for myself and our staff and in our program, we know it's bigger than us, and the loyalty, the faithfulness that this fan base has always given to Iowa State athletics, but certainly Iowa State football, and to be able to give that back to them, something to be really proud of, something to be confident in, and something to believe in, it's special. And so, from my end, I probably live in a hole and can't tell you what else is going on outside my world. But I can tell you for our kids, and when you walk into a stadium like Saturday night and it's freezing cold, and man, you see this incredible crowd, and I know what'll be waiting for us down in Dallas. You're just really grateful that you're at a place where people care and are invested in your kids and the program.
Coach, obviously Ohio ended up being a really successful team last year, and their quarterback is a potential Heisman finalist this year, but certainly not a loss that you envisioned your program ever taking. What do you remember about the staff meetings that you guys had after that game and that performance that maybe sparked some positive change for you guys to have the success that you've had in the last 2 years since that defeat?
Yeah, I don't know per se, maybe staff meeting wise. I think more so meeting with our players after that game. I vividly remember that Sunday meeting, and just really talking about the reality of where we are. I think the one thing I've always appreciated about adversity is if you're humble enough to use it right, then you'll really grow. And I think we found some things out that day just of, number one, we had some guys that stepped up in some really tough moments. What Rocco did in that football game was obviously nothing short of exceptional, and kind of gave us an identity to move forward with. But I think the biggest thing we moved, I think, was understanding that there were so many young guys in that game. And just you go back to that game and the amount of freshmen that were in critical roles, Ben Bramer and Abu and Carson Hansen, and I mean just with where we were a year ago, Brendan Black, just the challenges that were upon us. And it wasn't that we didn't have the talent, but we didn't have the confidence yet. And, I think to hear those young guys speak in that team meeting of fear of failure, because they didn't want to let the team down, I think that was a huge moment. And I think for the kids to hear, man, my fear of like us not being successful in the game because we were so young and what we were up against, and I think just being authentically ourselves and knowing where we were, and the only way through it was we were going to have to rally together. And I think from that point on, we had an identity. We knew who our leadership was, and we knew where we were going to go, and it allowed us to really build forward. So I think those were the biggest building blocks from that game.
Coach, talking about kind of the discussions of the college football playoff, a lot of discussions about the first round bye to the top 4 conference champions, and a lot of the narrative is leaving the Big 12 out of that first round bye. So regardless if it's you guys or Arizona State, you've been in the Big 12 for a while. What would you say to the committee about giving the Big 12 that first round bye?
Man, we need like Coach Gundy to answer that question. You know what I mean? I feel like I probably not qualified enough. I told the kids right after the game on Saturday we were in the Big 12 championship game, and then Skip and our whole staff ruined it for me and said we weren't even in. So I didn't even know that. But, so to answer that question, like, is going to be tough for me. But, I just think week to week, top to bottom, this conference and what it stood for, and that's not to say any other conference is better or worse. I just know what this conference and the quality of football right now and coaching that's going on in this conference, the quality of players. And, man, if you don't play a football, you're not going to win in this conference right now. And there's no easy out. I give the coaches in this conference a lot of credit. I give the players in this conference a lot of credit. And I think there should be a lot of respect, certainly, about what this conference has stood for, especially even in this season. So great question. And like I said, man, you got to call Coach Gundy. I think I'd rather hear his comments better than mine.
I don't think we're getting you tomorrow after signing day comes together. Just speak maybe in some generalities. I know you can't address anybody individually, but anything unique about this class, how it came together with the coaching staff that you've got now, and just get into that. Also, 2 weeks earlier this year, too. I mean, how challenging has that been to navigate with everything going on?
Yeah, it's tough. I think the biggest thing, we're really fortunate that our coaches did a great job, and we did a great job early on in this recruiting journey, January, February, March, April, May, and really kind of trying to tie the foundation of it up by June. And, we're really excited about the class coming in. I think the staples at what we've always been about, we didn't flinch or waver from, recruit winners. Recruit young men that come from great high school football programs, recruit, really well from a 6-hour radius of our doorstep, and then, do everything in your power to continue to find guys that fit what Iowa State has been about. Don't really care about the star system, but really care about the humans and, man, right guys that fit what we do in offense, defense, special teams. And I really, I give Derek Hoosier a lot of credit. I give our recruiting staff a lot of credit. And I really give our staff a lot of credit. And I know I say this a lot, but I do mean this. There is no ego in recruiting here. I think we're all working together. And when everybody's trying to find the best fit, it's nobody's trying to be the recruiter of the year. We're trying to have the best team we can have week in and week out, and year in and year out. So, we're fortunate to have a great staff, and also I give a lot of credit to our kids. I think, that, and that covered us. Our kids have a lot of say in recruiting here, and, trying to bring the right guys that fit our culture. So, I thought our team, our coaches, Derek, his staff, I think they've done an incredible job. So obviously tomorrow will be a great day, and, the fact it's a little bit earlier probably isn't a bad thing, and to be quite honest with you, everything's kind of coming new and often, but I think the positive is that we're not missing a week on the road right now, and so I think at least from that standpoint, that's certainly a positive for Iowa State.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, guys. Thank you.